Ever wanted to buy a house and then you walk into it and realize it wasn't exactly what you saw online? That may be a fixer-upper. In this episode of Welcome to This House, we're going to see a particular house here in Ridgeland, Mississippi that needs a good bit of work and how to close with a renovation mortgage one time and one time only. Hey everybody, I'm Bo Smith with Cornerstone Home Lending, better known as Bo Knows Mortgages, and I'm at 108 Windrush Subdivision in Ridgeland, Mississippi. And it's the temperature is dropping. It's been raining for the last few days, but I had an opportunity to visit this particular house, and I kind of want to take you on a quick tour of what problems this house has, but what you can do to solve it in reference to renovation mortgages, that in hopes that you could share this with your friends or family in reference to how to actually to close on a house and make a house a home with a renovation mortgage. So we're going to actually take a tour. But before I do that, I want to make sure I introduce and give props to the person that allowed me to come out here today. This is kind of fun. I love doing this. The particular agent that allowed me to do this is Sarah Campbell with Campbell & Company at 601-613-3423. And guess what? This house is probably on the market for about 10 days. This house is actually, if I can scoot in a little bit, you'll notice this is a private gated entrance subdivision. So this makes it kind of easy to kind of get in. Private, there's about 36 homes in this subdivision, and this house is the one what we're talking about. This house right here is for sale, 3,899 square feet, 4 bedrooms, 3.5 baths. Listed currently right now for $354,000. And trust me, it's going to move, and it's going to move quick. And the reason why is because according to the information the real estate agent shared with me, at $90 a square foot, the average house in here sells for well over $100 a square foot, starting around 110 to 15 on up to 130 and some change. So that's why it's going to move first. However, move fast too. There is a good bit of deferred maintenance with this house, so we're going to look at it real quick. So you'll notice, starting with the front door, rotten wood, and I mean rotten, it is rotten. You've got rotten wood on the fascia and the soffits. You've got no guard for this particular area when it rains. So this particular house needs a lot of work. So we're going to take a quick tour and then go into how the renovation mortgage works. I need to kind of shut this door because I was very fortunate that they had heat on in this house. So let me slightly touch it because you can see right here, more rotten wood. Now, don't you love the entry? Cheetah, rug, carpet, stairway. Nice, huh? Those were the days. All right, so we're going to take a quick tour of this house. This is a great layout of a home. Why? It's because the master bedroom is downstairs with all the upstairs bedrooms upstairs. The living room in this house is or you'd say, open room is pretty phenomenal. It's got a catwalk. It's got a nice foyer. It's got your guest bathroom. And nice little dining room with, I would assume, some form of open room or living room right here. So we're going to take a quick look into, thanks for joining us actually. All right, the master bedroom. This is huge. To kind of give you proximity, I mean, this is big. I can assure you, you will not find this size of a master bedroom in most homes of this size. You won't find it. And what I like about it is if you have a separate entry out to the pool area. By the way, the pool's being drained today. But this room, again, has a lot of deferred maintenance. You got stained carpets. You have a little bit of water leak. And this bathroom, quite interesting, is talk about what duct tape can do. There we have it. We are being held up by some 2x4s. Definitely the bathroom needs to be updated. As you can see, it's got his and her sinks. I don't understand what the curtain is doing in the bathroom. So his and her sinks. This closet is large. Definitely for 2 people, or at least just one, if you got a lot of shoes, ladies. Okay? going to make this quick because we're going to talk about the renovation mortgage. As you can see, this house needs some TLC. All right, I'm going to go upstairs real quick. Let me turn this around real quick. All right, as we walk upstairs here on the cheetah stair rug, this upstairs has 3 bedrooms and a form of a bonus room overlooking the pool area. I'll kind of turn it back around and notice that you got the catwalk here looking down to the main living room space area, hallway this direction, and to the far east side of the house is a larger bedroom with a particular bathroom back here for that one person that's going to be living in this particular room. Kind of nice with the closet. We keep going back. We have another bedroom with chandelier and 2 closets. Little sitting area with a sink. I don't understand this. Hello, everybody. This is a kind of a Jack and Jill bathroom because it goes into the other room. This room, 4-bedroom, in my opinion, is a little small, but it does have a closet. And as you can see, the hallway going back to the other bedroom, which has its own bathroom. We have a closet right here. And this is an interesting room, especially with the windows that are cut out in it. I would assume is a form of a bonus room. There's no closet in here. And this, as you can see, overlooks the pool. They are currently draining the pool. It needs it. It needs it. All right, we're going to go downstairs, look at the kitchen, and talk about this house. This house, in my opinion, again, I'm not a real estate agent, just based on the information the real estate agent Sarah Campbell shared with me, is perfect for a particular family that possibly is a second-time home buyer in our market, at least, and that has want or needs to be close to the interstate. What makes this subdivision so special is subdivision, Windrush, is extremely close to Interstate 55. Around the corner from St. Andrew's Episcopal School, good public school districts as well, and accessible to the interstate, it makes it a plus. Not to mention the fact that there's a multi-purpose trail that runs along from the overlook point of the reservoir, Barnett Reservoir, for those that may not know what it is. And you measure the distance on it back and forth is 22 miles. So whether you're walking or biking, it's a great trail and it backs up to the subdivision. It's gated, so it makes it kind of special. So this particular kitchen is probably the benefit of the house. I wouldn't say that we necessarily need to keep the appliances, but the kitchen is okay. To reiterate the size of this house, it's 3,899 square feet. It's 4 bedrooms, 3.5 bath, and it needs a lot of work. The kitchen is probably the best looking part about it. As you can see, looks like a few things were taken. The wine cooler was taken, of course, the refrigerator, and looks like we got a missing part of a cabinet here, door. But this particular kitchen does need some work. This house dates back to 1991. That's when the subdivision was relatively formed, 91, 92. You got a 3-car garage, as you can look in here. Big. I try to open the garage doors, but they're not working. So nice, right? Wouldn't you agree? 2 storage bins, cabinets, the backyard. I'm telling you, it's pretty nice. We're going to take a quick look at that. And then, of course, I'm going to turn this around real quick. You got a walk-in pantry side laundry room, huge. And, of course, entry into your dining room. Let's go in the backyard and let's turn this around. We got some floor problems right here. And listen, if you can hear it, my microphone is really mic'd up. So we got some type of hollow floor in here that's had some water damage. And as you can see, the water seems to be seeping in right here. Okay. But this house, water damage there. Probably needs some gutters and pushing the water away, or some type of awning so that just so much water doesn't come directly to the house. But this house has got a fabulous backyard. A fabulous backyard. Now the pool, that's another thing. It's a big pool. I like the pool, but it needs probably resurfaced. Who knows what the filtration system needs, maybe a new sand filter. New fence, we got some couple of broken limbs over here, but a huge backyard. But the fence, as you can see, the back of the house, as you can see, is huge, that overlooks the pool. Again, this is a family-oriented house for probably at least family of size of 3, 4, or 5 that's looking to buy and fix up, because this house needs fixing up. So we're going to spend some time answering some questions. Let me rephrase, not answering questions, talking about the particular program, because I get asked probably once, twice, sometimes 5 times a day to explain the program. And sometimes in the past, when we've done these Facebook Live events, I go out and I talk about the house in reference to possibly what it needs, and people are asking me questions later, well, how does the program work? So we're going to talk about that a little bit. So what I'm going to do, bear with me real quick, I'm going to put this particular, there we go, it works just perfect so I can see everybody in TV land facing the kitchen here. All right, so as mentioned earlier, Sarah Campbell is the listing agent on this particular property. She's had it probably for 10 days. Unfortunately, this is a foreclosure. I'm not privy to who the bank owner is. This is about 3,800 square foot house, selling for $354,000. In about another 10 days, there's probably some negotiation for possibly a price reduction, but they wanted to keep it on the market for 20 days. In my experience, because I'm familiar with this neighborhood, this house will move quickly. And for the purposes of the price point, and because it surrounds some larger homes that are at a much higher price point, it's getting a lot of traffic right now. With that traffic, when people walk in, the problem that they face is exactly the problem that they see. It needs to be fixed up. And if you know anything about traditional lending, there's no particular loan programs out there in general for people to go out and buy a house and fix it up, until some programs came around years back. And that's what I'm going to talk to you about. Typically, when someone buys a house, the house has to function and meet minimum property requirement standards under Fannie Mae, FHA, or VA guidelines. For the last 7 years, I've been focused in on my passion of helping people achieve homeownership one house at a time by taking what they want to put into it, just like you see on these big TV programs on reality shows, and make that house their home with a renovation mortgage. Now, when you think of renovation mortgage, you may think of jackhammers, you may think of massive work being done to the house, but the reality of it is a lot of the renovation projects sometimes are just small little things to kind of tweak the house to the standards that a customer wants. This particular house would really only qualify for a program that we offer called a Homestyle conventional renovation mortgage. And the reason for that being is because at this point in time, the house is listed at $354,000, and it exceeds the FHA guidelines, which are $276,000 loan amounts in my market for purchasing. Now, as you know, this house is being sold for $354,000 at this point in time, $354,000, but it needs a substantial amount of work. So we're going to kind of go through how the Homestyle renovation work, and then talk a little bit about the FHA 203K, and hopefully I'll be opened up for questions. All right, the Homestyle renovation is a Fannie Mae program. Terms and conditions are no different than you'd have in a typical general 30-year mortgage or 15 mortgage you have today. The simplicity of how the program works is you are adding the renovation cost to the loan, okay? So think about it for a second, and just hypothetically using this $354,000 sales price as an example. If this house needed, let's say, $60,000 worth of work, and if you added $354,000 to it, then of course you're looking at a $404,000 loan amount. And that's what you're looking at. And under Fannie Mae Homestyle Conventional, you have variations of options. You can buy it as your primary residence, you can buy it as your second home, and actually you can even do it as an investment property. That's right, you can buy this property and fix it up as an investment loan with the Homestyle renovation loan program. The loan to values in general, meaning for primary residence, you're looking at about a 95% loan to value, which means about, general speaking, down payment of 5%. You can put more money down, but 5% for primary residence. If you look at this as a second home, then of course you're going to be looking at about a 90% loan to value under Fannie Mae guidelines, which is 10% down payment. If you're looking to fix this up as an investment property, then you're going to be looking at about 15% down, 85% loan to value. So to kind of give you a proximity as far as what you may have to invest is a small portion of what you can actually add to the loan. Now, there are some limits, or what we call max loan limits under Fannie Mae guidelines. Currently, they're $417,000. And there are some changes that are coming up the first part of January. It's going to increase that to $424,000. So this house probably would need to be reduced significantly more, because I think the amount of work is pretty significant than probably the example I just gave you. So the Homestyle renovation is the ability to buy this house, add all the repairs to it, and fix it up. Now, you may be asking, how do I go about doing that? Well, of course, that's why I'm here. Bo Knows Mortgages, right? Bo Knows Renovation. Definitely go to our website to kind of get more information or possibly pre-qualify. However, the simplicity of how the program works, and this is kind of educating you, is you basically get pre-approved with your trusted source of a lender. That would be me. That actually focuses on these programs. And please understand, there are many lenders out there that probably broadcast that they have some familiarity with just about every mortgage, okay? When I say Bo Knows Mortgages, I don't know every mortgage, but I tell you one thing I do know. I know renovation lending, I know renovation mortgages, and these loans, I basically learn, eat, and sleep these 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and have been for 7 years. So the difference between me and other lenders, I feel, is the fact that I have a lot of experience with these. These are very hands-on particular loan programs that require a loan officer that's licensed in your particular market that knows how to take it to the next level. This is not a turnkey, because these loan programs can take some time. But moving forward, assuming that you got pre-approved for this particular loan program, the Homestyle renovation, you would get a cost analysis worksheet or a loan estimate. And then once you get that, you would need to kind of meet up with a contractor of your choice. Now, if you're in contract, if you're not in contract, the typical timeline on these, we encourage for at least 45 days on these loan programs. But honestly, this particular amount of work, I mean, you're probably looking at about a 60-day minimum that we need on a contract. Why? Because after you're in contract, and assuming you got pre-approved and you understand some of the costs, then you got to meet up with a contractor that you trust. And any particular market, there's different variations of what requirements are for contractors. In the state of Mississippi, anything over $10,000, the State Board of Contractors of Mississippi require that be a general contractor, be licensed. Therefore, we'd encourage you to find a licensed contractor that you trust, okay? Now, of course, you'd meet up with that contractor. The contractor would take a tour of this home. Sarah hopefully would open the door, or maybe an agent that you're working with open this door and showcase them the house. The general contractor would make notes of the rotten wood, the flooring, the appliances. That's right, you can add appliances. New countertops, new fence, resurface the pool, clean up all the lush, lavish landscape that you want around here. Cut a tree down. Absolutely, not a problem. You definitely can do that with the Homestyle renovation program. It allows for luxury items. And then, of course, the general contractor would make a list, providing the lender, that would be me, a detailed description of what's being done per task with a labor and material breakdown, okay? Not complicated. The complicated part is finding a contractor willing to take time out of their schedule and visit with you to come out to the house. And that is probably more time consuming than anything else. A good quality contractor should be able to give you a bid in a proximity time, I would think, of 3 to 5 days. But unfortunately, it does not work out like that way all the time. A lot of times, general contractors need to consult with plumbers, electricians, and maybe even have them come out to the property to visit to make sure they're making an accurate estimate. Once that estimate is provided to you, we encourage you to get 2 to 3 estimates from any general contractor you'd like. You can get those estimates and make a comparison. We highly encourage you to get more than one. And the reason why is because there's multiple contractors out there with multiple different forms of pricing, and we want to make sure that you're shopping before you buy your money. So once you get that estimate, again, whether you've been pre-qualified or pre-approved at your local lender, then of course you would basically provide that information to the lender, and the lender would utilize that to order the appraisal. That simple under Homestyle renovation. As long as the contractor meets the vetting requirements vetting requirements of what the municipality requires and the state, that the jurisdiction for which the house resides in this case in Mississippi, which is different than Texas, we're going to be looking for a licensed contractor, and the subcontractors need to be licensed as well. And again, most municipalities will require permits, therefore their permits require an electrician to be licensed, a plumber to be licensed. So if you're looking for a handyman to come in and do work, these programs aren't quite designed for that, unless you're doing a very simple task, such as installing an appliance or fixing rotten wood on a very small amount. In this example in Mississippi, that's below $10,000. So keep that in mind when you visit with contractors, that contractors need to be licensed for a project of this size. They need to be able to work with subcontractors that are licensed, and they need to make sure that they're properly itemizing the bid. And if I can say this once, at least twice, this is why it takes so long for us to close these. These contractors, and not all of them are created equal, are slow. And you got to keep on them and for us providing you the bid, because the longer it takes for you to get an accurate bid to compare, the longer it's going to take the lender to order the appraisal. That's why it takes sometimes 60 days. So keep that in mind when you're visiting with a contractor. Another thing, though, to remember, at least with us at Cornerstone Home Lending, is we don't supply any forms of materials up front and costs to the contractor. And again, not all contractors are created equal. When you're dealing with a project that, in this example, could run, let's say, $100,000 in renovation, the contractor is going to need to be able to work off a draw. And to work off a draw, that means the contractor needs to be well funded. And that's, in my opinion, is a conversation that needs to be had up front and not at the tail end after you get the estimate, only to find out the contractor cannot tote the note. Because we have great draw procedures that can pay the contractor very quickly, but the contractor is going to need to substantially perform on that job after closing in order for us to compensate them on that draw. And therefore, if they can't carry the materials and the labor costs for a week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks, then I would encourage you to consider thinking about if this contractor is suited for this particular job. So think about that. We do have a variation of list of contractors that are familiar with the program, but of course, any referrals that we give out, we're going to encourage you and mandate that we at least get a couple of bids, and of course encourage you to visit any particular municipality or state required contractor sites for other contractors. Understand that the contract that you enter in with the contractor is between you and the contractor. It's not between the contractor and the lender. So we may be the stewards of the funds, but you basically have a contract with that contractor. Okay? So that is something to remember, even if there is a form of a referral because a contractor is familiar with the program, and it's always nice to find someone that's familiar. There's no endorsement at Cornerstone Home Lending with these contractors. There's no meaning that there's never going to be a problem with these contractors. That's why we encourage you to get multiple bids and get variations of bids from different contractors. So keep that in mind when you are actually out there consulting with contractors or, getting some information from the contractors. All right, so we made this simple. You've been pre-qualified or pre-approved. You provided a cost analysis worksheet or a loan estimate. You're in contract potentially, and you're meeting with your contractor, okay? You don't typically find out what the costs are on a house until after you're in contract. And the reason why is because this house is vacant. We're very fortunate this house is vacant. And a lot of houses that we assist clients with are not vacant. Therefore, if you're not in contract and you're trying to have multiple contractors come in and subs come in on a house that you don't have the ink on paper, that you're not willing to put forth an effort in good faith to purchase with a deposit down, that seller may not invite you into their home because it's too much back and forth. And then again, of course, you could potentially lose the house while you're trying to get the cost factor on that particular house. So remember, there's an as-is value of a house. So come up with that first, regardless of what the costs are. We encourage that all contracts are contingent upon home inspection. We encourage home inspections, and that could potentially be your way of getting out of the contract in the event that you come up with some additional problems or face additional obstacles on your home inspection. Again, consult with your real estate agent in reference to that, because I am not a real estate agent. Okay, so on to the fact that we got the bid. We get the bid, yay! All right, we order the appraisal, right? How long does that take? Who knows? Could take 7 days, 12 days. This is a one-time appraisal process based off the improved value of the house. One, the improved value. We don't need two, we just need one. We just need to know what is the improvement of this work going to give us on this house. And once the contractor gives us that, the appraiser provides us an acceptable appraisal based on the conditions and requirements to the guidelines of the program, then of course we underwrite it. We make sure all other conditions are met, insurance, Sometimes we have to get builder's risk insurance. Why? Well, the customer may not be able to live in the house while this work is going on. This is a perfect example. So therefore, the customer have to reside somewhere else. So most insurance companies want you in the house within 30 or 60 days. Therefore, they may require a different form of a temporary builder's risk insurance platform, similar to what you'd have on contractors get on builder's risk. Once we verify that and vet that, and of course underwrite the file, meet all other conditions, make sure the appraisal meets the standards of the program guidelines, of course, we prepare for closing disclosure, communicate the closing disclosure within 3 business days prior to closing to the customer. We send the package to the closing department once it's vetted, the closing disclosure that is, and then we close. And then depending on what state you're in this case, Mississippi, the work can begin the day after you close. In Texas, there is a 3-day waiting period, okay? So if you're just joining us, and I didn't say this earlier, the market for which I serve and license for which I serve is Colorado, Texas, Mississippi, Alabama, Arkansas, Louisiana, and Tennessee. And I'm very familiar with most all guidelines of what is required from the state, and Texas is one that doesn't require the contractor to be licensed, but the subs are required to be licensed, and there is a waiting period after you close before you can start work. So if you're in Houston, you're listening to this, and you may be aware of this, of course, the general contractors don't have to be licensed. However, we do require the subs to be licensed, and then of course there's a 3-day waiting period after you close. In the state of Mississippi, where this house is located, if someone were to close on this house and we're at the closing table, guess what? The day after closing, we're done. The work can start, okay? Once the consummation and funding of the house has happened, work can start on the property. Now, Cornerstone Home Lending has a great funding department. Unlike a lot of other companies that try to focus on this, that may actually outsource this, we have an inside funding department that handles this, so we communicate with the contractors and their draw request, which is a big win. And it's a big benefit for your contractor to make sure they get paid on a timely fashion. And of course, they're dealing back with us as far as communication. So after we close, the contractor says, let's start tomorrow, the next day, or I got to get materials, great, they can start work. The project requires the work to be done within 6 months. 6 months. That should be plenty of time. That should be plenty of time to do any form of renovation. If there's any concerns or obstacles that the work cannot be done in 6 months, we need to know about that prior to going to closing. We just need to, okay? What's a benefit about this program is sometimes work could take 2, 3, 4 months to complete, like in this particular example on this house. And if that's the case, the customer has the choice to potentially finance mortgage notes in the loan. That's the benefit about the Homestyle Renovation Mortgage. Granted, we have to make the final decision on that and determine if it can or cannot be financed the mortgage, but we do allow mortgage notes to be financed if the house is uninhabitable. That is a benefit to you if you're looking at purchasing a property or renting a property right now, or maybe you're in an apartment right now. When you purchase a property that needs renovation, you can't occupy it for 30 days or longer, we can take a look and review and can make a consideration if these mortgage notes can be financed. Again, there's certain terms and conditions that apply, and subject to qualification applies as well. So I hope that helps you out. So that is the Homestyle renovation. Again, it's typically for primary residence or second homes or investment properties. Loan to values are as high as 95% for primary, 90% for second homes, and 85% for single family investment properties. And if you're just joining us, yes, single family investment renovation properties do exist with the Homestyle Renovation Loan Program. So if you're a first time home investor, you're looking at investment properties, you may want to look at the difference between what a hard money lender would charge and what the Homestyle renovation would charge. Okay? Now, on to the FHA 203K, which is the birthing of the Homestyle renovation. And I didn't use it as an example in the very beginning because this house exceeded FHA county limits for this particular market. If you want to know where renovation began as far as lending, look no further than FHA 203K. It's been around since 1978. It was passed by Congress to address post-dated houses that were post-World War II houses that were dated and needed updating. Of course, it was birthed in 1978 when, let's just say, lending was not robust and it was a hard, difficult process to follow. So what I think is interesting about that particular program is the fact that it allows predominantly primary residents only, first time buyer, second time or third time to buy a house, and the loan to values on it are 96.5. So that means in general, the down payment requirement in general is 3.5% down. That is phenomenal. Why? Because if you were to look at any commercial lender that specializes in construction loan, which is typically a 2-close, they're going to require a subject to improvement of 80%. 80%, which is about 20% down payment. How many people in this country do you know buying a house for the first time can afford to put 20% down? If I recall my recent research for the American Housing Study and the National Association of Realtors, the average down payment in the country is 10%. So most first-time home buyers, at least in the market in the Southeast, are looking at programs such as the FHA 203K or FHA 203B to look at getting a house with not as much money down. So it's a great program to look into if you're buying your house for your first time and the house needs a little TLC. And when I mean a little TLC, it could be as simple as maybe new appliances. I mean, how many first-time home buyers have you dealt with, be it an agent or maybe you're listening and you're watching this and you're thinking, okay, I got a friend that's looking at buying a house and maybe has that general speaking of 3.5% down to invest. However, they don't have the money to go out and get appliances. They're not going to have the reserves to do that after the fact. This program allows, just for the simplicity of even appliances, a washer and dryer, stove, or refrigerator. You'd be surprised at some of these houses people go into, and there's none of that. And the client is stuck with purchasing that after closing. The last thing we want any of our clients, and I'm sure you, if you're a real estate agent listening, is to further include more debt that does not necessarily meet their budget qualifications on a credit card, or maybe be swiping out all their savings to get involved in some transactions after closing. And agents, if you're listening, you're guilty of this, because I hear you do it all the time. Look no further than some of these reality shows. It's not as simple as a simple paint to fix a problem after closing. The customer needs to understand the cost of truly what it takes to buy into a property. As I tell everybody, there's only one perfect house that exists, and that's the one the customer can afford. So therefore, if their plans on doing all these other projects and the AC breaks down, and they not only needs painting, but they need to get appliances, they're going to potentially incur debt that they were not expecting. So educating the client that programs like this exist, not that they necessarily will go that route, is very helpful for your toolbox and enhancing not only what you do for a living, but educating the client. That's why we're taking a Facebook Live, because sometimes the message doesn't get out to all real estate agents. And again, some agents just don't know what they don't know. That's why we're doing a Facebook Live, so there's no excuses now, right? Right, we'll see. But I'm telling you this, that most first-time home buyers that I deal with that are buying a house and go FHA do not have a substantial amount of funds left over after closing. And they're typically buying a house. And let's back up a little bit of what the house they're kind of buying. For those that are, again, just joining us, the National Association of Realtors in 2015 did a listing of their typical home buyer survey of all the houses that were closed based on 2015. There was 5.2 million transactions of homes closed in 2015. I'll repeat that one more time. There was 5.2 million homes closed in 2015. Out of 5.2 million in the United States, guess how many were new construction? Want to take a guess? Anybody? 510,000. Think about that for a second. According to the American Housing Survey, the average house in the United States was built in 1975. It's a 3-bedroom, it's a 2-bath house. 1975. Their survey that they conducted on closings that occurred in 2015 stated that the average house was built in 1990. 1990. And was about 1,900 square feet, again, 3-bedroom, 2-bath. And if you're listening, and I hope you are listening, the millennials that are out there, they're in a much bigger buying power for 2017 than they ever have before, because they're coming of age. And I can assure you, even though that I'm in a 3,800 square foot house that's 4-bedroom, 3.5 bath, they're more than likely not going to be buying a house this large. They're just not. They're going to be buying the 3-bedroom, 2-bath house. And more than likely, it's going to be 20 or 30 years of age. And here you go, selling them as is, and maybe some paint, and maybe some hard work and some elbow grease after closing can fix the problem, which doesn't really happen. Usually they go out and max out their credit card debt. And that can even be proven through with evidence that the average credit card debt after purchasing a house significantly goes up. Home Depot and Lowe's definitely loves home buyers, okay? But there's much better ways to do this. It's more cost effective. So if you just do the math, majority of the homes in this country are being bought existing. By far and large, 5.2 million, only 510,000 was what? new construction. Okay. So it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure that out, that every house that you're typically looking at, buyer, or real estate agent that you're typically showing a buyer, is going to be an existing home. And I may be in a house that's foreclosed, but there was one time it wasn't, okay? And I can assure you, most of your clients or you as a buyer are going to be looking at existing homes. There's nothing wrong with new construction. It's just, it doesn't necessarily make up this substantial marketplace in this country when it comes to buying real estate. And there's where I come in and try to educate buyers and real estate agents to think outside the box. If the average house in the United States, according to the American Housing Survey, is about 1975, they're not getting any younger. They need work. And trust me, the honey-do list and do-it-yourself projects on the weekend do not suffice. They look like crap half the time. I've been in them. I've seen your do-it-yourself project. They're not that great. I mean, professionals do a good job for a reason. More inviting for a professional to come in and add this to your loan than it would be to do it yourself. Again, simple math, simple processes. So to kind of recap a little bit, as we mentioned, and we're talking about the 203K, it's a great loan program that allows you to add the improvements to the loan under one note. You basically get in contract first, like I was using the previous example on the home stretch. And for those that are joining, I'm going to be answering some questions, but I am literally trying to get through with this, and my questions will be answered at the tail end. So if you stay with us, I'll answer them, I promise. It's just that if I stop and answer every one of them, it may annoy the other viewers that are coming on board. But the 203K loan program that's been around since 1978, by the way, it's a terrible name. It's just a code name for the Federal House Administration's Renovation Department, allows you to make these improvements as is, add them to the loan. You usually don't do that until after you're in contract. That's our encouragement, because most people that live in a house aren't going to let you bring a bunch of contractors without making a full substantial deposit and making sure you're going to purchase the property contingent, possibly on a home inspection. Again, consult your real estate agent. But once you find out what the costs are with your contractor, as we mentioned earlier, make sure you get vetted contractors and you get that itemized list. We have to determine under FHA guidelines whether it's an FHA 203K streamline or FHA 203K regular. For those that go, what's the difference? Basically, anything above $35,000 that involves load-bearing walls or no load-bearing walls, we have determined there's going to be our foundation work, we have determined there's going to be an additional consultant to come in and act as a peacekeeper for the process. It's a HUD requirement. It's been around for quite some time, since the inception of the loan program. And we work with that consultant to kind of work with you to make sure that you understand the cost that you're getting yourself into. It's a great way. They act as a referee throughout the project and post-closing, working on the draw request. They're your middle person to go to, your referee, just like you would see in the NFL, that assists you with questions and answers to the particular project. So therefore, it does take a lot of time after you get into a contractor's estimate, because we got to hand that over to a consultant to review and meet up with you and answer any questions you have and provide us a work write-up that is simplified and makes sense for the program. It is a HUD requirement. It is not required under the Homestyle renovation, which sometimes clients look at both and compare. There is a cost factor to it. The most under 203K consultants can charge, which can be financed in the loan, is $1,000, because they do a lot of work up front and they do a lot of work afterwards. So we determine whether it's going to be a 203K or 203K streamline or a 203K regular. Once that's determined, if we go to the 203K regular route and we get the consultant, we order the appraisal. Yes, we order the appraisal. No different than we did on the Homestyle. It could take 7 days, 10 days, 12 days, 15 days to come back. And when it comes back, we underwrite it. We make sure it meets the guidelines of our FHA 203K. We make sure the customer has the insurance. We make sure there's no other questions that need to be answered. We make sure and set the expectations as far as what's going to happen afterwards. We ask and make sure there's no expectancy of amount of money that needs to be financed along. They need to look at not having a mortgage note due because they can't inhabit the property. Then we proceed with the closing disclosure, provide that 3 days before closing, make sure they sign and send it back, send out the package, and we go to closing. Again, depending on what state you live in. Remember, Texas is different than Mississippi. We cannot let you start work immediately after closing. If you're in Texas, it takes a 3-day waiting period. In Mississippi, they can start immediately. And boom, the consultant acts as the referee of the project, works on your draw request, and you're done. I mean, you got 6 months, same thing, okay? So whether it's a small project, whether it's a small escrow, that's what we do at Cornerstone Home Lending. That's what we do. That's what I love to do. Why? Because too many buyers are buying into these properties and finding themselves stuck with homes that don't perform. And this is one of them. And this is no different. Granted, this is a bigger renovation project, but this is no different. This house will go quick. I feel very confident this house will go quick. Whether or not they do a renovation mortgage, I have no idea. They may pay cash, they may go a different route. But for those that are watching, even in this local market, and see this particular property and the work that's got to be done, that you're going to be spending a good bit of money. I can forewarn you and tell you that you're going to be spending a good bit of money because there's a substantial amount of rotten wood, there's water that's got to be moved away from the house, and I know that by visiting with the real estate agent who worked with a contractor who's advised us. So this is not something I'm just making up or just did by observation. This was information that was provided me directly from the real estate agent. That being said, I'm going to open up for questions, and there's been a good bit of questions, and I will do my best to read because I need my glasses on. So let's see if we can go down. Okay, any questions? All right. How does the loan program work? All right, well, for those that just joined, we're not probably going to go back in and talk about the Homestyle renovation program and the 203K all over again. Interesting enough, I have flyers that'll leave at this particular house at 108 Windrush for you to view. But of course, definitely connect with me or inbox me and ask me additional questions that you may have. And I'll be more than happy to provide you flyers on the timeline and if you're in Texas, about how it works in Texas, or if you're in Louisiana. What we want you to do, if you're listening, is to ask yourself the question, who do you know that will be buying a house in the near future that's going to come across a house that does not substantially perform, that's something they don't like? This information that I'm providing you could be the difference between helping them make the right choice and possibly them not making the right choice, because we want clients that are buying houses to be informed on the right choices. And that's where the renovation mortgage can potentially help, is because it allows them to add these improvements to the loan and so forth. Let's see. Mike Fern just shared the information. I appreciate Mike. We're still okay. Is there any other questions that anybody has at this point in time? I just want to make sure they get answered. If not, you can actually leave a question on the comment side. For those that are new or just recently joined, we're all over the place. Bo Knows Mortgages is on Facebook. Bo Knows Mortgages is on Instagram. Bo Knows Mortgages is on YouTube. Bo Knows Mortgages on Vimeo. But BoKnowsMortgages.com is my website to look at pre-qualifying today. And tell everybody, let's quit the insanity. Albert Einstein said it better than anybody else. Insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results. I'm so tired of the status quo of what people do when they buy a property. It's ridiculous. They go out, they buy a property, they close on it, they spend all this money, and then they complain later how much money they don't have or didn't be able to put in the house because they didn't know. And then they find me later only to complain that their real estate agent didn't tell them about it, who sometimes they knew about the program but didn't mention it. Just because a house met minimum property requirements doesn't necessarily mean it's the perfect house for the client. Ask the question. So sometimes we just can't rely on our trusted sources to let everybody know these programs exist. We have to let the home buyers, the clients, the citizens out there, let them know, because eventually these millennials in particular are going to be buying properties. And they're going to be buying properties that are a lot different from my generation and definitely the baby boomer generation. And when they go out there and look at a house, they're not necessarily going to want exactly what their grandfather or their father wanted. They're going to want what they want. And therefore, you're going to have to give them more options. And let's face it, real estate has changed dramatically. I mean, here I am on Facebook Live, providing you information on a renovation program at a open house for me, I should say, at a house that I used to run around and give out flyers to real estate agents. And now I'm actually talking to potential clients out there about how this program exists. A lot has changed if you look at it. Take a look in reference to how you search for a property today. I'm willing to bet you when you search for a property, you don't go to the local real estate website. You don't go to the local MLS. You utilize big agencies such as Realtor.com, Zillow, or Trulia to find a particular, go out searching for property. And it's been a many times late that I've seen clients in the back of a real estate agent's car. I don't see that anymore. Most people are meeting the real estate agent at the house because they don't want to be inconvenienced. So we know buying has changed, but what's interesting is the mortgage is still the freaking same. A freaking 30-year as-is mortgage is predominantly the biggest mortgage financing option we have out there. And all we're saying is wait a second, everybody. There are different loan programs to purchase and provide prosperity in this country that exist and have been existing for quite some time. The problem is there's just not many lenders that focus in on it. Okay? That's the truth. And I know there's probably some lenders that may be watching this, or probably some real estate agents saying, yeah, but the interest rate is much more, the costs are much more. All I got to do is tell you this. There is potentially an increase in interest rate. There is potentially an increase in costs. But I can assure you that if you sometimes look at the price versus cost versus price after closing, you may realize that finding a way to finance this in a cost-effective way over amortization of a mortgage was probably more cost-effective than possibly on your credit card at 21%. But who am I to make that judgment call, right? Let it be you. But if you got this information, you can share, if you care, and let other people know that these programs exist. Let's stop the insanity. Let's quit doing the same thing over and over again and let people know that programs like this exist to educate that there are programs out there that people can buy. If you're on the Mississippi Gulf Coast, these programs exist for you. If you're in New Orleans, these programs exist for you. If you're in Houston, Dallas, Waco, and Austin, and all of Texas, these programs exist for you. If you live in Colorado, Denver, Colorado Springs, Pueblo, these programs exist for you. If you're in Nashville or Memphis, these programs exist for you. If you're in Arkansas, Little Rock, or Hot Springs, these programs exist for you. Or even in the great state of Alabama, in Birmingham and Mobile, guess what? These programs exist for you. And the reason why? Because I'm certified, trained, and I'm damn good at doing renovation mortgages. And if you want it done right, then there's only one person to call in my observation, and that's Bo Knows Mortgages. On any given day, I'll be more than happy to help you out and educate you. I'd rather you be better informed and go someplace else than not informed at all. So, thank you so much. If there's any additional questions, please leave comments. If you need additional information, please inbox me and I'll be more than happy to provide you additional qualifications, because we do not discuss terms and conditions openly, but we'd be more than happy to see if we can assist. My eyes are straining on me, and I know there's been some comments, so I will have to revisit these comments later. But think about it and share. That's what we encourage you to do. Share this information. There's the Homestyle renovation. There's the FHA 2 or 3K renovation. I did not get into new construction because we do offer a postponed improvement for new construction. We do hold back escrows, but that'll be for another class. But keep that in mind when you're thinking about this. And this house, it's going to go. So if you're interested in this house, as I mentioned earlier, call Sarah Campbell at Campbell & Company. It's again 108 Windrush. Right now it's $354,000. We've got about another 10 days before there's potential price reduction. The pool is being drained right now. So looking forward to possibly hearing from you, but educate, inform others that these programs exist. Any additional questions? I look forward to hearing from you later. Adios. And remember, Bo Knows Mortgages. Instagram, Facebook, everywhere. Bye.